Good evening. Goeienaand. Dumelang bagaetsho. It's so good to be with you tonight. We have missed you. How many weeks? Was it
2 weeks.
2 weeks
Yeah.
of no communication, not hearing from us not hearing from you. And 2 weeks is too long. We have to talk about the Christmas season. What are we going to do during Christmas season? Do people talk during Christmas? Or do you choose what you want to hear, who you want to talk to over Christmas? Should we have a program like this over Christmas? What do you think? We want to hear your opinions. But it's so good to have you with us tonight. And the Liberele, that song we say, good evening, good evening. The Lord bless you. From me, all the way from Israel via Jerusalem and via Addis Ababa, then Johannesburg International Airport, then we are here. It has been a long one, and I was tired. Somebody said to me, you still look tired, and hey, it was a long trip. Busy 2 weeks, busy 2 weeks, but so good to be back home. And obviously, my colleague also was not just here around the Cape Flats all the time when we were gone. He is from far. He went to Taiwan. MPs were invited to Taiwan. They decided not to invite me because I was invited by the Israelis. And you know, that's a country I love very much because I love the maker of that country. He made other countries, obviously, but he says that is my city. I mean, God never said Cape Town or Pretoria or Addis Ababa is his city, but Jerusalem.
Pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
There must be something special. There must be very special, something special.
Yes.
No, from me, welcome and so good to have you with me tonight.
Well, good evening, and thank you again for tuning in, joining in. And yeah, we really missed you for these last 2 weeks, but it wasn't because we were sitting and twiddling our thumbs, but both myself and the president had extremely busy schedules. And as he's indicated, I've also just returned from Taiwan, president from Israel. But it's always good to be home. And so please get your cup of coffee, tea, rooibos, Milo, and call a friend, a family member to tune in tonight, because South Africa needs the ACDP. If ever there was a time that South Africa needed the ACDP, it's now. And the ACDP needs you.
Well said, DP, well said. South Africa needs you as the ACDP needs you also. Okay? Both South Africa and the ACDP need you. We need you. We need one another, because this country is destined to be a great, fabulous, successful, and prosperous country. So we have to do our best to make sure that we do not drop the ball, we do not disappoint, but we do exactly what God called us to do. All right, now we want to hear from you, friends, before we tell you what's going to happen tonight. What language was that again? Sipo Eric Manwele. What's that?
WJ2GP.
Okay, he says greetings to our leaders, the president, Dr. K. Michelle, Deputy President, Pastor 3, the President of Women of Destiny, Mrs. Mishwe, brothers and sisters, in the wonderful name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Greetings, Bob Mangele.
Emma says, good evening, Mr. President, the Honorable DP, and the ACDP family. Good evening to you, Bongani.
Tokiso Mputi. Greetings, leaders. It's good to have you both back. So true. And it's so good to have you also, Tokiso. God bless you.
Councillor Tabang Moshidi says, good evening, Mr. President. Good evening to you. I would send your greetings to the President, Councillor Moshidi.
Okay, Moses boy, you're right, and thank you for conveying the greetings. He says, good evening, Mr. President, the DP, and the ACDP family. That's Moses boy.
Jaco Erasmus says, good evening, Mr. President, Honorable DP, and ACDP family. May this session be a blessing to us all. From Ward 9, Nelson Mandela Bay.
Norman Fanamkonza says, Shalom, shalom. You know that even when you are sleeping with your eyes closed, when you hear shalom, shalom, you know who will be talking, all right? He says, Shalom, shalom, Honorable President, Honorable DP, and the lovely ACDP, the Solution family members. So welcome back. Thank you, Ndade Norman Mukonza. It's good to be back.
Tutuko Kumalo says, we thank God you are back, my leaders. Greetings, Mr. President and DP and all ACDP family. Greetings, Tutuko.
Simbi Tidlo Mo says, greetings, sirs. Connected from George. Thanks for connecting from George. Greetings, young man.
Raymond Tlaeli, our NEC chairman, says, good evening, Mr. President and DP. Welcome back home. It's good to be back again on the live stream. Looking forward to more informative news. Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Sir, maybe before we start with the formal program, can I maybe give a testimony in line with the scripture you read?
Yes.
And the NEC?
Yes, Isaiah 43.
That God is doing a new thing.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Uh-huh.
You know, on Saturday, we went to launch a branch in Silverton, in Pretoria. Ladies and gentlemen, you must know that your president is still launching branches.
Yes, sir.
And some people are saying, no, he should not, he should leave that to us. My challenge is, if I leave that to you, how many are going to do it? Mm-hmm. We don't need 100 branches. We need thousands of branches. Mm-hmm. So everybody who's serious about the future of this country must be involved in recruiting, launching new branches, getting people with skills, people with passion, so that we can grow the ACDP. So we went to Pretoria, Silverton, to go and launch a branch. While we were driving to Pretoria, my phone rang, and a lady spoke in Afrikaans. She said, Goeiedag. Ek is 'n blinde wetvrou. Blinde wetvrou. Ek wil net weet, julle Christene en die Christen Party, neem julle wetmense? I said, for sure, you are welcome. So she started telling me, I'm driving and we are four in the car, telling me about the call. He said, you know, I called, well, it's not a secret. She said, I can mention it. And then she said, God helping her, she wants to make a video. She said, he called the DA with the many problems she had. They just wanted her votes and not her problems to help her. And then she said, we spoke to because I guess Afrikaans, she said, spoke to the Freedom Front Plus. She had many problems, but the Freedom Front also had, were interested in my votes, my family votes, but not in helping us as a family. All right, before I tell you what the challenge was that she was talking about, then, as I said, we are on the way to the meeting, and I had to cut the meeting short. I said to the people who came to that meeting, I promised an Afrikaans lady that we will see her after hearing that she's also in Pretoria before we go back to the East End. We went to visit them at the house. Sure. A very small, tiny house with a husband. She said, what blessed me? She said, and the husband was there. He said, ever since 1994, you are the first political people, because we didn't tell them who we were. I didn't even tell them. They don't know it was the president. I didn't tell them the news about it. So you are the first people in politics who visit us at our house. Thank you very much. We are going to vote for you. We are going to tell our friends and people in this community that the people of the ACDP love people. And therefore, I want to say to you guys, people out there need love, need attention, need care.
Yeah.
Some of them just need somebody to touch them on the shoulder.
Sure.
We care for you.
Sure.
God bless you. Just only that. God bless you. So then, nobody has touched me. It's like a extent, nobody touches me. So you might think this is a small thing. People out there need to be touched with the love of God. So let us, ACDP, remember he said, South Africa needs you. And the ACDP also do what? Needs you. South Africa needs you. I am a witness, therefore. Maybe let me mention the last thing about this trip. When we arrived and we started that meeting and talking, then I saw a Muslim lady, a young lady approach me. That lady, obviously, you can't miss a Muslim lady. You know this duke. You call them duke, what do you call them?
Hajibs, I think is what they call it.
Hajib.
Yeah.
She had that hajib. So she came with an ACDP member with an ACDP t-shirt. And she went to the table. They spoke. She went to the table. While the meeting was carrying on, she was reading. Not long, she took a pen. She signed membership.
Wow.
Last Saturday, she joined as an ACDP.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are people who know what's happening on the ground.
Yeah.
People who are in need.
Yeah.
People who know that South Africans are in need and they want to help. Okay? Spoke about the vet lady and then spoke about a Muslim lady. The third one that was a surprise, a taxi was passing because we're in the main road. A taxi was, I don't know whether he was speeding or what, he was passing, then he stopped. Just few meters, maybe after where we were, he stopped. Left the taxi in the street because he was in a one-way street. And there was an island where she couldn't make any U-turn. So she left the taxi in the road and she came to us. When she came, started to talk to people. Hey, I like this party. I want to join also. I said, what are you doing? Okay? A taxi passing by. Sees ACDP because we had a small tent there and tables. And he also came and signed up members.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, all of us remember South Africa needs you. The ACDP needs you. So do something and make yourself accessible, make yourself a servant and a worker who will not be ashamed. When the Lord comes, he will say to you, well done, a good and faithful servant.
Can I just say, President, unbeknown to me, that this is what the President was doing on Saturday. Our members in the Ward 15 in Marenridge went over to Ward 14 area in Kwandengezi, Nagina, to meet with Pastor Dube to get the branch launched in that area. I had just completed a funeral and went over to Nagina. And when I got there, the folk were excited. They were in the streets, in the business community area, signing up members. So you had both the president and the deputy president on the same day, signing up members and working for the ACDP on the weekend.
Well done.
So that's an example that we want to set in the ACDP for all of our structures. I just thought I would mention that, sir.
Well, thank you for mentioning it. You are confirming that people are ready out there.
Sure.
And if ACDP soldiers and ground troops are ready, people are ready.
Yeah.
Okay, people are ready. Now, for those who never heard it, maybe because we speak about it when we are with leaders and so on. Every 2 weekends a month, we want them to be dedicated to working for the ACDP. Exception, Sunday morning, we all go to church to worship the Lord. We don't want to use that time for politics and signing up members. Sunday morning, we go to church to worship the Lord. Well, after the service, then you can do whatever you do. But the most important thing is 2 weekends a month. we must dedicate to the ACDP. Something that we were not doing in the past, that I must confess now, that I heard of sometime last week, that political parties, older, experienced political parties, when it's time for holiday, they don't close their offices completely. And from this year, we're going to do the same thing. We are not going to close our offices completely. Now, one of the workers is looking at me there. We are not going to close offices completely because we want to be accessible. And the Lord has given us days and hours and months for entertaining ourselves and our families. But there must be a time when we say we want to reach out to others. Okay? Now that we are going to Christmas, before the end of the year in December, you must have one weekend, Friday and Saturday. Use them for getting ACDP members, and then I will also do the same. He's also going to do the same thing. We must grow the ACDP, friends, because the future is beckoning.
Yeah.
People want change. I saw a video this morning. I apologize that I forgot where I saw it. I just bumped into it. You know that many
It
times
happens.
you just bumped into something, and before you think of maybe recording or saving it somewhere, then something else comes. There's a gentleman, they say he's a billionaire, Rob Herstoff. In the video, he speaks. You know, he doesn't like the ANC. A flukele, okay? Flukele ANC. Doesn't like them. So he says he doesn't like the ANC, the EFF, and the MK party because they are socialists. Now, what's the problem with socialism? Let's not go there now. We'll talk about that. But when you hear of Christians who are promoting socialism, people must just be give, without not receiving, without not plowing. They just want to harvest, and they forget about planting. Whatever you eat, know that somebody worked for it. Somebody worked to produce them. So we also need to do the same thing. So now this Herstoff, he says he is tired of seeing how the ruling party have destroyed South Africa. He says he wants to restore South Africa. He is a white man, businessman, he says. He wants to be a white president of South Africa. And he promises he will change things. He will change things. He will make South Africa work. Now, we are going to talk about that because we believe we can do the same thing. All right?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that later on. But now this gentleman, he's white. He says he wants to stop these three parties and then work with, he mentions ACDP. Okay? He says because they are level-headed, they are not Father Christmases, who just hands out everything, mahala, free. Okay? It does not work. But he says they want to work, he wants to collaborate with those that want to work and make South Africa become a successful, victorious country. And obviously, and that's a man with money. I did not know until I heard from that video. He's not impressed with Rice Mzansi. He says for the last elections, they were given 60 million rands to contest elections. Okay? 60, not 16, 60 million rands to campaign. We need that money.
Yeah.
If you have a relative, okay, who has that kind of money, tell them the ACDP needs that money. And we promise, we are not thieves. We are not thieves.
Yeah.
Some of us have handled church money. Yeah, we have handled church money. We didn't steal a cent. We are handling Parliament's money. We don't steal a cent.
Yeah.
We use it the way we are told it has to be used this way. So we have been tested, even though it may not be with 60 million, but we have been tested with lots of money. Remember, Jesus said, he who is faithful with a little
Little.
will be faithful also with much.
Yeah.
If you are not faithful with 500 rands and you say, Lord, give me 5 million, and you are not faithful with 500, forget that 5 million will not come.
right.
So he wants to start a party because he doesn't have hope in what he sees available around. ACDP has to respond. We have to come to a stage where you say, Mr. Herzog, support ACDP.
Yeah.
Because we are not socialists. We believe in hard work because God has promised to bless the works of our hands.
Well, President, I think absolutely. If one looks at the track record of the ACDP, even in terms of our spending, with the ACDP, you get what I call bang for your buck. You get value for your money. If with the little that we have, we are able to get more seats than individuals who have 100 times more than what the ACDP has financially, and they get fewer seats than the ACDP. Can you imagine how prudent and what kind of good stewardship you would have over the resources of this country? South Africa is blessed with abundant mineral wealth, We have some of the highest deposits, in fact, the largest deposits of platinum in the world. 70% of the world's platinum is here in South Africa. Iron ore. South Africa was the largest producer of iron ore and ferrochrome, producing up to 70% of the world's ferrochrome, not to mention other critical minerals that South Africa has. And so when you have the wrong people, as the Auditor General said, we have in South Africa the wrong hands at the till. This comes from the Auditor General of South Africa. We have the wrong hands at the till. But when we have the right hands at the till, can you imagine the prosperity that this particular nation will be able to experience under men and women who fear God, men and women who love God? I've always said, if you cannot and do not fear God, how will you fear the men and the women that you propose to serve? For me, it's not possible. It starts with the fear of the Lord. And so, as our president said, there are those who want to start these different political parties. They have the finances. But if you are sitting with some hoard or some stash or some inheritance, and you don't know what to do with it, we will give you the details that you can send it to. Just contact our ACDP national office and say you want to be of assistance to this party, the best party in South Africa.
Well, it's not a slip of a tongue. The best party in South Africa.
Yes, sir.
That is the truth.
Yes, sir.
That is the truth. That is the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to move on now. This was a long introduction, but I was in Israel. It was my 21st trip to Israel. And I won't give you a report about Israel. We have spoken so much about Israel. Now, my colleague here, my co-pilot here, when I went to Israel, he went to the communist side. He went to Taiwan. All right? He gave a report about Taiwan. Why during apartheid, they didn't like China. They worked with Taiwan. They had relations with Taiwan. Now, after 1994, the ANC, the communists said, no, we don't want Taiwan. We want the Communist Party. We want China. So they started working with China, and China tried to invade and to force Taiwan to be under China because they claim it is theirs. But I want him to give us an account in case you don't know. This program, among other things, is to educate our people. So I want you to know the difference between Taiwan and China. Why is China calling the Taiwanese Chinese? Okay, so he's going to tell us about the trip, what they were doing, in China? Thank you, sir.
Well, President, a very interesting trip indeed. We were invited by the Taiwanese liaison office because pressure is being put on South Africa to actually downgrade Taiwan, and there's currently an attempt by the South African government to force them out of their offices in Pretoria, so that they would move either to Johannesburg or to Cape Town, and this is essentially coming from China. But why is that? So let me give you perhaps a little bit of some background history. Taiwan, to a large extent, has always been an independent people group, the Taiwanese people. They were occupied by the Chinese under the Qing dynasty from about for about 200 years, 1600 to about 1800, just past the 1800s. Then you actually had Taiwan being colonized, much like South Africa was colonized. Taiwan was colonized by the Dutch, and then it was the Spanish, the Dutch in the south, and then the Spanish in the north. They planned an insurrection, and the Spanish were kicked out of the northern parts, and so the Dutch had complete occupation of the island of Taiwan for many years. Fast forward to thereafter, you actually had the Japanese who came and colonized Taiwan, and 50 to 70 years, right up until the Second World War. During the Second World War, China actually fought alongside the Allied forces because you also had Japan, who was allied with the Nazis, and so Japan had actually attacked China from the north, and so there were two parties. There was the Communist Party, and then there were the kind of capitalists under Chiang Kai-shek. And Chiang Kai-shek was actually the emperor or the ruler of China at the time, who supported capitalism, pro-capitalism. So these two groups, because they came under attack by the Japanese during the Second World War, the capitalists and the communists fought against the Japanese. We know the end result, that both the Nazis and the Japanese were defeated at the end of the during the Second World War. At the end of the Second World War, the communists then turned against the rulers of, which is the KMT party under Chiang Kai-shek. The communists turned against the KMT party, Chiang Kai-shek party, and received military support from Russia. With the military support from Russia, they were able to defeat the KMT under Chiang Kai-shek. Chiang Kai-shek then had to retreat from China, and he retreated with some 1 million individuals. Remember that Taiwan had been occupied by the Japanese. So Chiang Kai-shek then retreated to Taiwan with some 1 million Chinese, and they then established, well, actually there was, during that particular period, there was martial law for about 20 years actually in Taiwan, until democracy broke forth and the people said, we want democracy in Taiwan. And so after that period of martial law, Taiwan is now a fully fledged, independent, democratic nation. The problem is that when Chiang Kai-shek and his group fled from mainland China, they called themselves the Republic of China in Taiwan. Then you also have the People's Republic of China, which is the communists. When they fled to Taiwan, the Republic of China group under Chiang Kai-shek spoke about a one China policy. So they still had plans. These capitalists still had plans to go back to China to overthrow the communists. So now you have the situation where China understands, and the communists understand, that you had a party or group that fled from China. They had the KMT party. They are no longer in authority or ruling in Taiwan. It's now a democracy. There's a new party that is ruling in Taiwan. But China wanted now control, and they took over the One China policy. But the One China policy actually came from the Republic of China, not the People's Republic of China. Now, Taiwan controls some 70 to 90% of your microchips and in terms of technology. So those microchips that are found in your computers, in your cell phones, in your hospital equipment, in your military equipment, in your planes, in your satellites, in your missiles, almost every technological gadget today needs those microchips. And Taiwan produces some 70 to 90% of the world's microchips. It is also no wonder that China, Communist China, the People's Republic of China, wants complete control of Taiwan. The question is, if that technology lands in the hands of Communist China, what then shall we say of the free world? What then will happen to the free world? It is unfortunate that also in 1994, at the advent of our democracy in South Africa, where once during the apartheid era, there was these cordial relationships with Taiwan, but the moment the ruling party under the ANC came in, they switched track and moved to recognize Communist China as their preferred partner, and the relationship with Taiwan was diminished. And so, President, this all came about during our visit. This is the information that we gleaned during our visit to Taiwan. It's a beautiful country. It is now a fully amalgamated, synchronized in terms of the different tribes, the original tribes that were in Taiwan. They have now integrated with all of the different groups that have, whether it's the Chinese, and the Japanese, and the Philippines, the Filipinos. They all now, those who have been there and have been there for many years, regard themselves as Taiwanese, independent from mainland China, and what they seek is just to be left alone. But despite that, there are daily incursions from Communist China, military incursions where planes fly into their airspace, naval ships come into their territorial waters. You have China kind of bullying on the periphery and threatening. And they've given a date, which is by 2027, in terms of what Xi Jinping has indicated in China, where Taiwan must be incorporated into Communist China. So we need to pray. We need to pray for the people of Taiwan. It is a very fragile situation that is there. But when one looks at what they have been able to achieve, a people with just some 23 million people compared to our 65 million, and what they were able to achieve in a short space of time, they have a GDP that is 3 times larger than our GDP. And an economy that is growing, an economy that is flourishing, innovation that they are churning out almost on the daily basis. They have innovation hubs that work with both government as well as the private sector. And there's this, they break the disconnect between government and the private sector. So where government needs innovation, they go to the private sector. They ask the private sector, and so it gets fed to government. When the private sector needs assistance and government is able to help, you have this central hub that ensures that there's a smooth transition between government and business. And so the economy is thriving. Almost all, President, of their students, over 90%, do pure maths and science. Pure maths and science. And so we certainly gleaned a lot, and there's much that South Africa as a democracy can learn from Taiwan. And so we look forward to implementing some of those positives even into our policies.
Yeah, I think one of the things we need to do is to invite the same gentleman who invited you to Taiwan to come and appear in this program and ask some questions.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we need to do that.
It was a lady, so I'm sure, but we can make contact with her and ask for her to come and answer questions with regards to Taiwan and what they are doing there. So I'm going to pause. I think that I've spoken quite a bit. I can share about the different places also that we visited, but I think that I've said my share for tonight.
All right, about Taiwan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was in Israel, as you said. DP was in Taiwan, and then we have our friend Steve Swart. Steve did not cross the ocean. Cape Town weather was not good for crossing the ocean. So he stayed around, then he went to Pretoria to attend the conference. I think it's important to hear about this conference and to be told of what is coming. We have spoken about the CRL many times. The CRL that cannot be trusted because they're doing a number of things underhand, not transparently. You want to know, but you have a Section 22 committee. Who is on that committee? Who elected them? And what were the necessary qualifications? This is information we need. And obviously, we can't get hold of them. So we want to have that person here so that we can cross-question him, so that we can tell him about things that concerns us. Things that concerns us. I think ACDP also, unless something miraculous happens, will end up in court against the CRL Commission. Okay, they don't like us, they don't like me. They say things, they say I say things, but there's nothing I say that will not repeat anywhere in the world because I believe in truth. So when people are being exposed and you say, hey, these people are saying this, they're doing this, and the right thing is this, we'll have evidence. So, Steve, when we went across the oceans, must test your geography skills. Which ocean did you cross?
We crossed the Indian President, and then we crossed a part of the Atlantic before we landed in Taiwan. So it was Indian Ocean getting to Singapore, then from Singapore over the Atlantic and into Taipei. So 2 oceans.
Okay. Is that where the 2 oceans marathon comes from? Or is it Atlantic and Indian?
Yeah, I think on our side it's the Indian and the Atlantic.
And the Atlantic Ocean. So Steve attended this year a conference organized by a pastor friend who went with us to Israel, Pastor Bert Pretorius. Now, they say his organization, he started an organization that has about 50 million people collectively, about 50 million. So they have a voice. And from what we see the Seattle doing, they are trying to push their agenda. And if they push us to an extent that they say you must belong to an umbrella body, we have to look around and we have to talk about this. If we are going to be part of an umbrella body, it must be a body that has weight, that has numbers, that has capacity, because we have to defeat these guys with what they want to do. So we had Honorable Steve Swart, who attended the conference this year. I attended last year. It was a wonderful conference. I spoke at the conference last year. They invited me this year. I said, it clashed with my Israel trip. And so I could not. And next month I was invited to Washington, D.C. in December, first week of December. I said, age sometimes interferes.
Mm.
Your heart wants to fall over, but age says, no.
Yeah.
Slow down, slow down.
Sure.
So I could not go, and I'm not going. It's next month. And when we're in Israel, the president of that organization met with us for dinner.
Yeah.
And then he said, any change of mind? Are you coming? I said, I wish I could say yes. But Steve attended the conference. And the CRL commission is a challenge. Registering with them, with the CRL, is a challenge because they want to force that. And I saw that the defenders, church defenders
South
group,
Africa Church.
yeah, South African church defenders have taken the CRL commission to court.
To court.
Yeah,
Under
they-
Section 22.
Sure.
Yes.
They have taken them to court. Now, Section 22 should be elected democratically, and it was not elected democratically. Now, some commissioners are trying to say, yeah, they were. Then, but we are saying, give us the names. Who was elected, who attended, who was elected, and who was confirmed. Because if you have a proposer, you must also have a seconder. Okay, so that's information that we are still waiting for. But for now, we want Steve to tell us the good news about what's happening with the CRL. Are we winning, sir, or are we losing?
Good evening,
Welcome.
President and DP, and good evening to the ACDP family. Thank you for inviting me to just share some thoughts about the conference. And welcome back, President, from Israel. DP, welcome back from Taiwan. And thank you for your positive testimony. It is wonderful to see the ACDP impacting globally. And it is wonderful, as I've often said, the most powerful advocate for Israel from South Africa, even I say worldwide, is the ACDP's president, Reverend Kenneth Meswe. Why do I say that? Because, President, you discredit the narrative that Israel is an apartheid country as a victim of apartheid, and now having traveled 21 times to Israel. What a rich blessing. And you bring a blessing to our nation for that stance as well. From Genesis 12:3, you stand in the gap on behalf of South Africa. But President, about this conference, and thank you, you attended last year. This was the second Faith and Governance Conference organized by Pastor Bert Pretorius. He leads the South African community of faith-based fraternals. That is almost 22,000 churches. And he partnered with a Washington-based Institute for Global Engagement. And they were the hosts of this conference. And they had very eminent leaders speaking, church leaders from South Africa and political leaders, including Dominee Dirkie van der Spy of the NG Kerk, Reverend Henry Heineman of the AFM Church, Pastor Chris Natabula, Dr. Banda from Zambia, Dr. Goodwill from Zimbabwe, Chief Rabbi Goldstein, Sean Zagnoff, who would have been with you in Israel as well, Reverend Hermie Damons, the National Chaplaincy, many others. They even had a Major General from SAPS. And it was a very, very good conference to attend. I attended with Louise, who also had an input, a very positive input of what she sensed the Lord is showing her, the positive things, as you said, President, the future of our nation. So my input focused exclusively and reminded the church leaders of the role that the ACDP has played and what the role our president, you, President Kenneth Meswe, have played in protecting religious freedom in South Africa. And I reminded them, because there was a lot of talk about 1994 and the miracle of the peaceful transition and Nelson Mandela. And I said there was another miracle in 1994. And that was that our sovereign God changed the electoral system and allowed the ACDP to be elected and allowed a godly leader, Reverend Kenneth Meswe, to be in a position of authority and influence to impact the constitution drafting process. And many people forget that, but it is crucial. That in itself was a miracle, President. And the fact that you mobilized 50,000 people to to march against the concept of a secular state being introduced into the Constitution, and that resulted in the Constitution drafting process being changed, and where you then, with God's help, with his inspiration, wrote in Clause 15, religious freedom, that religious observances may be conducted at state institutions. That is remarkable. And I reminded the church leaders there that that is the role that the ACDP has played as a voice in Parliament with great influence. The other issues which I had a great sense to share about was the issues relating to standing with Israel, and there was quite a long input by Sean. There was a long input by Rabbi Goldstein as well, and how we have stood with Israel as well. The issue of the CRL attempts to regulate the churches did come up as well, and I also reminded the church leaders that the ACDP has and will take a strong stance in opposing any state regulation of the churches, and that we have already, President, you have raised it in Parliament, I've raised it in Parliament, that we will oppose it under the guise of self-regulation. And there's a very strong sentiment coming through, even from mainline churches, that they will not accept state regulation of churches. This is not going to go through, President. We've prayed, we've marched, we've stood firmly. There are court actions as well, but I cannot see that any plans will go through parliamentary process, and that the previous Parliament has already not accepted the suggestions of the CRL to regulate churches even under the guise of self-regulation. So, President, I just want to honor you, and I want to thank all the ACDP members that participated in the marches, both in Gauteng and the Western Cape, for the turnout. It was excellent, but the battle is ongoing, President, as you indicated. But there was a lot of emphasis as well on practical solutions, lots of positive inputs. But I indicated that one of the reasons that our nation is in the state it is that we do not follow the biblical example of the elections of candidates. And I alluded to Exodus 18, Exodus 18, verse 21, which sets out what is required of candidates and what is required of elections. And President, you will recall that it says, and this is the Jethro principle, select capable men, and I added women, from all the people, capable men who fear God. DP, you referred to the fear of God. Fear God are trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain. And I challenged the church leaders, and I said, just think if we had candidates and councillors of that capability. And I said, the ACDP offers those candidates who understand stewardship of state resources, that state resources are not there to be stolen, and understand servant leadership. And so it was a wonderful opportunity to again remind the church leaders there that the ACDP is the voice of Christians in Parliament, that we need to be partnered with faith leaders and encouraging them to come alongside the ACDP in great numbers, given the situation that our nation is faced with at the moment. So, President, our message was very positively received. What one of the speakers, Dr. Chris Matabula, said, it's like that the church is on the back of a bus and there's a drunken driver that is supposed to take them where God wants them to go. And I said, that Mr. Pastor Chris Matabula, the ACDP wants us to be in the driver's seat and gives you the opportunity of have godly people in the driver's seat where your voice will be heard and we will reach the destination that God ordains for our nation, which is blessings, which is prosperity for everyone in South Africa. And I challenge those there to let us be like Nehemiah. Let us rebuild the walls of society. And let us also, and the last message that Louise also shared about, and I, just about Hinena, which is Hineni, which is now is the time. Here am I, send me. And so, President, it was an honor to represent the ACDP at the conference, to speak to leaders, to network with leaders, and we have a lot of favor with Pastor Bert, with lots of pastors there, with lots of top leaders that all send warm regards to you, with the Jewish community. I even engaged with other faiths that were there as well, and engaged internationally with Dr. Bob Rogers. And so, President, the ACDP is on the map internationally as well. I reminded them of how we've drafted documents over the years and the stances we've been taking, working with international groupings. And so, President, again, it was an honor to represent the ACDP at this conference, which you set the example last year, and we are continuing that good work. And I'm trusting that we'll be able to build this relationship in the build-up to next year's elections. Thank you, President, for allowing me to share briefly this very positive conference that we were invited to attend and to address.
No, thank you very much, Steve, for that report. I'm going to, if you don't mind, DP is going to say something about the
Yes.
Palestinians that came into the country illegally, what government did for them. We know all that, so that when Christians come, that we will say they must be also given the same privilege that this group was given. Now, the story about a man who's drunk driving a bus. You know, during the formation of the ACDP, the Lord showed me this clearly. We were in a bus, a number of charismatics and Pentecostals. We were in a bus, sitting in the back seat, okay? And the song that we were singing was, soon and very soon, we are going to see the King. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the King. You know how charismatics and Pentecostals, they close their eyes, soon and very soon. And there was a massive hole, a donga ahead on the road. Massive one. So charismatics don't see that. They close their eyes, soon and very soon. One does not know whether it was prophetic because of what was going to happen. But while they were singing, then somebody saw that and shouted, change the driver, change, because the driver was sincerely driving, you know, and heading for that hole. Change the driver. Open the eyes. I realized indeed there's a donga. Look at the charismatics, the eyes are still closed. And the Lord said, I want you there, otherwise your nation is going to collapse. Your nation is going to collapse. Wow. So, Christians, time to wake up your eyes.
Yeah.
Time to wake up and open your eyes.
Yeah.
Open your eyes. Open your eyes.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
So, we have Hamas, even terrorists. Nobody can tell who they are. They could be terrorists. Actually, after the 20, when did they start emigrating to Europe in large numbers?
It was during the Syrian war, the civil war in Syria, where large numbers also started, and the Europeans started opening up their borders because millions were actually fleeing from Syria. But also you had those coming from the northern African countries, Morocco and Algeria and so on. And they were going to France and some of your other European countries.
And many of them
even
were
prior to that.
Yeah, many of them were young people who were the age of war, of soldiers.
Sure.
Very strong.
Sure.
Not a single woman. And people started asking questions. If these people are running away from who, where are the women? Where are the mothers? Where are the grandmothers? Okay? Because there was an agenda. There was an agenda. But in any way, let's talk about these that are in. We have people, ISIS members in South Africa. We have Hamas in South Africa. And they are friends of government. All right? So DP obviously wrote a piece, and some people were not very happy about questioning how these people came, who paid for their transport to be in South Africa.
So, President, on my way back from Taiwan, while I was still in transit, we fortunately had Wi-Fi connection. And so I received this message indicating that there was this plane that has landed at OR Tambo that has been creating quite a stir. I sent the message to the NEC to find out whether it was true. And my colleagues from the NEC came back and said, DP, it appears as if this is true. By the time I landed at OR Tambo, I saw that this had now gained more momentum. I contacted our national SecGen, and I said, we need to issue a statement. I also contacted our legal advisor, Honorable Steve Swart, and I said to him, Steve, we need to issue a statement. So our NSG, I said, while I'm still flying, send me a draft. Please send me, NSG and legal advisor, send me a draft. As soon as I landed, so remember that we had been flying and traveling for some 24 hours. As soon as I landed, I realized that this statement needs to be issued because the Palestinian refugees, but allegedly refugees, had by that stage had already been released because of the gift of the giver's intervention. So as soon as I landed, I received the draft, thankfully also from our legal advisor. So between the two of us, we had put together the statement, and I added, subtracted, and then sent the statement. President, from that particular statement, I think I had about 5 interviews. 5 interviews. I said to our media liaison, Kino, I said, listen, we're sending this statement out, but I need to get some rest. So interviews will only be taken the next day, which was the Sunday. So I hadn't slept for about 24 hours because of the travel. Stayed up because if I had gone to sleep, my time clock would have been out because we landed here in the morning. But we got the statement out. So I had about 5 interviews, SABC, it was SAFM, it was Pala Pala, it was other news agencies wanting interviews from the ACDP on our position. Our position was very simple. You have a plane, because the president of South Africa, Mr. Ramaphosa, said it is a mystery how that plane landed here in South Africa. It was a mystery. And he says he's going to instigate an investigation into how this plane landed in South Africa and how they got here without the proper documentation. According to the president, it was a mystery. That is the first red flag. How is it that the president, who is supposed to have national intelligence supporting him, national intelligence who takes care of the safety of South Africa, national intelligence who monitors our borders, national intelligence who needs to know who's coming into South Africa, whether they are a threat or whether they are friends of South Africa. National intelligence ought to have informed the president. But this was concerning because the president made this statement that he is going to investigate, and it was a mystery to him how this plane got to South Africa, to OR Tambo Airport. But the challenge here, President, was that we discovered that prior to that plane that landed in November, there was another plane that had already landed with some 170 Palestinians. So the first plane came in with 170 Palestinians quietly, and those Palestinians were allowed into the country. How was that possible? Subsequent to that, we have now also discovered that Mr. Suleiman from the Gift of the Givers has indicated that they have also brought individuals from Gaza into South Africa. He says these are young people, students, who are going to be studying in our South African universities. Remember that Hamas is a designated terrorist organization. It is a designated terrorist organization by designated as a terrorist organization by the United States, by the EU, by the UK, by Australia, by Japan, and much of the free world have indicated that Hamas, Hezbollah, and such like are terrorist organizations because they have not only gone after the Jewish people, but they also have the blood of these citizens from these particular countries on their hands as well. Now, the one was the red flag. We also need to know that when any plane has to come into the country, there have to be logs. Permission has to be granted to the captain of that particular plane. And it has to be, that flight has to be logged. It's traveling from destination A, from airport A to destination, end destination. And permission has to be granted. Who are the individuals on this plane? Why are they coming to South Africa? Are they tourists? Are they business people, etc., etc., etc.? When they landed, they were not allowed in because your border authority, management authority, found that their documentation was not in order. Gift of the Givers said that it was because they've been set up by Israel. And so it was Israel that did not stamp their passports. Now, from 2013, Israel has not been stamping passports. Israel does not stamp passports. And what was very sad is that the media, then secular media, mainstream media, took the report of the Gift of the Givers and blamed Israel for this particular catastrophe that caused these poor Palestinians from being kept in a plane for 9 hours. It is because of Israel, sabotaged by Israel. But Israel does not stamp passports. They issue electronic exit and entry tickets. That's what Israel does. So this particular accusation by Gift of the Givers had to be challenged, and we challenged that within our statement as well. And then obviously one needs to know, of those who came into the country, how many were women and children? And how many were men? And were those who were allowed into the country properly vetted by the South African authorities? Were they properly vetted? Are they a threat? Were there any criminals amongst them? Are they a threat to the South African citizens? Were they properly vetted? These were the questions asked by the ACDP. And in addition, we've also indicated, does Mr. Suleiman from Gift of the Givers have does he have any preferential authority over and above the legislators, those who have been voted in, the legislators of South Africa? Does he have any extraordinary authority over those individuals? Because when he spoke, all of a sudden you had the Minister of International Relations, Minister Lamola, who jumped, and you had you had the DG of DIRCO who intervened, Zain Dango, who intervened, and they allowed these Palestinians into the country. So do they have, does the Gift of the Givers, Minister Suleiman, have any additional powers that we don't have as legislators? Which raises the question, as I conclude, President, which raises the question of when looking at that, I also made the statement, it appears as if our ministers, or the ministers of the ANC in particular, give preference to the Palestinian issues rather than the South African issues. They were quick to respond in a few hours They were quick to respond to the Palestinian issues when the huge amount of South African issues lie unresolved. And we all know the issues: crime, the economy, our health, our education, the potholes, the infrastructure, electricity, and so on and so on and so on. The South African issues remain to a large extent unresolved, but our ANC ministers appeared to be very quick to respond to the Palestinian issues. These are the questions that the ACDP raised, challenging our department, the DIRCO, Department of International Relations, on their decision. Let me pause there, sir.
Well, thank you very much. That was a mouthful.
It was.
Friends, we will catch up again this coming week. He just showed us time that we went over by 7-8 minutes, 5 minutes. All right. But thank you very much for your patience. You can tell that we're missing you. He was just talking and talking because he was missing you, you know. But thank you very much for being with us tonight. I hope next week I will be much more fresh than I am tonight. I'm still struggling. I think that until I start exercising, my blood will not. Yeah, I'm tired. But the Lord is good. I will be well. So, ladies and gentlemen, for tonight, from my side, the Lord bless you. Enjoy your night, your evening, and enjoy your week with your family. Until we meet again next week, same time, same place. God bless you.
God bless and good night.